you saw the very best players the entire country has to offer, and you saw it throughout the course of the weekend.
He's growing, he's improving at such a rapid rate. He's going to be a very good player.
This guy's a cross between Sean Marion and Lamar Odom. He's a 6'8" lefty, a high-level athlete, but also got a little bit of point-forward skills in him as he can handle and pass the ball extremely well. At this point, they are simply the standard by which everyone else is judged in prep school basketball. He's considering the likes of Michigan, North Carolina, Kentucky, Kansas.
Welcome back to the latest episode of the Upside Podcast, and today I am thrilled to have West Virginia head coach Bob Huggins here with us. Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
So I've got to start with a little bit of context because I don't know that people are aware of my history and how it relates to you, but my first Division I coaching job was for Larry Harrison at the University of Hartford. Larry had been your associate head coach at Cincinatti, and he is again your associate head coach at West Virginia. So it's given you in a couple of different settings and get the occasional quality piece of gear. So, and you also have I don't even know what to call him, but I think we are going with someone who's dear to my heart, who I used to work with back in the day, who's down there is is it specialist? What is Jay Kuntz's title down there these days?
Well, what happened was I kind of look over there and football's got like two guys taking care of the head coach,
Yeah.
So I thought, well, maybe why can't we hire somebody that, when I need something done, I can call them and say, and it worked, until he outgrew the position and become ultra important around here.
He actually got a couple of degrees down there, I'm told, right?
I tried to get him to get his doctorate.
That's amazing. That is.
I think he's a dissertation away from a doctorate.
Oh, I'm going to try not to cuss, but that is freaking amazing. So I have had the good fortune to get to know you in a couple of different settings, share an occasional barbecue dinner. But so I do thank you for doing this. The first thing I wanted to ask you about, it just became public yesterday, the McLendon Foundation Minority Leadership Initiative. And it was announced by Cal and Tommy Amaker, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm told you were very involved behind the scenes. So I just wanted to ask you if you would take a minute to talk about what that initiative is looking to do and what your role was in it.
Well, for the record, when Cal's involved, everybody's involved on the teams other than Cal. So I wouldn't. That could be said for a lot of people. But no, actually, think Cal called me and said, "Hey, I need you on a Zoom call at 9:00 tonight." And I'm like, 9:00 tonight? He said, "Yeah, 9:00 tonight." I said, "Okay." So I get on, and he's recruited about maybe another 8 to 10 guys, and has this idea that, I think coaches sometimes get a bad rap for maybe not being involved enough with their players or helping their players get to where they want to go, which I would 100% totally disagree with it, knowing coaches the way I do. But the idea was to get more minority young people involved in athletic administration. We have a shortage of minorities in athletic administration, and we thought it would be a great idea to get those people some training. So what we've done is set up a venue where coaches can donate the money, basically pay for a scholarship for people to come in. It's not, they're not taking classes. They're in the athletic department to learn how to be an athletic director, to be how to be serviceable in the athletic field. So I thought it was a great idea. And then we came up with, you have to run the money through somewhere, and the McClendon Foundation was a great place to run it. I got to know Coach McClendon pretty well when I was at Akron, right down the road from who that is. Anyway, I was right down the road from him. He was at Cleveland State at the time, and got to spend time with them, and got to spend time with him. We played Cleveland State obviously a couple times a year, and got to see him before and sometimes after those games. And great basketball mind, but a much better person. And so it was. I've been blessed. I said the other day. I mean, you think about me kind of growing up in the coaching business. My father was a coach. I've been around coaches, and I've been blessed to be around great coaches the majority of my life, and to be around the Al McGuires, the people who really made college basketball the spectacle, the must-see TV thing that it is today.
Now, I'm gonna come back to your dad and the coaches you were around, but I just wanted to ask one more question about the McLendon Foundation Minority Leadership Initiative. Is that specifically for former players, or is it for any minority?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Necessarily, it could be really anyone that wants to become an athletic director or work in the athletic field. There's going to be an interview process of which we're not going to be directly involved, but Cal has recruited a company that will do the interviewing and help do the placement. I think, if I give a scholarship, then there's somebody that I want to have here, then I think that we will get the guy here. But I think that what we discussed was, and you brought up earlier the name Deshaun Butler, and if Deshaun wanted to be in college athletics, it may be better for Dave to go to a Kentucky, a South Carolina, UAB, and learn from those people, because he's already learned here. He's already been around all the people here. He knows how things operate here, and to I think broaden his horizon on how athletic administration works. But I think even more important, to continue to bolster that resume,
right?
To have an eye-popping resume. When the resume hits the desk, the guy says, "Oh wow, we've got to talk to this guy."
Right. Now, Coach, obviously this this all comes in the backdrop of the George Floyd murder, and the social justice initiative coming to the forefront, rightfully so, in the country we're at. Wanted to ask you about the perception of West Virginia, because I know it's home for you. As I said, Larry Harrison, who's your associate head coach, he's a black head coach who I worked for. And what he tells me, he said, West Virginia, as I have experienced it, is nothing like the perception. And in recruiting, that's something we have to deal with and clarify right away. And so I wanted to ask you about you, because you are, in many ways, you're the most famous person in the state of West Virginia. So I just wanted to ask you about the perception, your experiences, and any misperceptions you might have to face on the recruiting trail.
Well, you have recruited, so you understand. There are unfortunately coaches out there who say a lot of things that really aren't true. They say a lot of things about other coaches. They say a lot of things about other programs. They say a lot of things about sometimes where those other programs are located. And I've always, thought, and our guys have always followed the credo. We're going to sell West Virginia, or we're going to sell Cincinnati, or we're going to sell Akron, or wherever I was. We're not going to tear other people down. But just to give you an idea, one of our first recruiting classes here, we got Chuck Bryant from New York. We got Kevin Jones from New York. We got Devin Ebanks from New York. And I'll never forget, they came in for the visit. Saturday morning, we have breakfast. I went over, put my arm around KJ, and we kind of had a little bit of an in with KJ because I played with Lowe's more, or as I tell Lowe's all the time, Lowe's watched me play. But Lowe's was a great player here and a great person, both of them from Mount Vernon, New York. And so I said to KJ, I said, "It's not what you thought it was, is it?" He said, "I could never imagine that West Virginia would be this good." And then obviously, we got those three guys, and they were a huge part of our run to the Final Four.
Yeah, thank you for that. You mentioned the Final Four, and you have had one of a Hall of Fame career. Pardon me. There's the thing, you've been to Final Fours. There's been everything but the national championship. We mentioned Deshaun Butler. The last trip to the Final Four, if I'm not mistaken, came when he blew out his knee. But that was, there's been a series of some of your best teams coinciding with these just brutally timed injuries. Not just at West Virginia, but also dating back to Cincinnati. And so I wanted to ask you about, if I could, about the elusive, national championship and the way that just downright luck seems to be associated with it, with regard to some of those injuries, most notably Butler, but others before that. And what was it, 93 against North Carolina, where there was another injury in Keith Legree in 96, and a series of different things that just seems to be unlucky more than anything else.
Yeah, 93, Alan Jackson, who was really a heck of a player for us, and he tore his knee up in a first round game, and we lost him, and we lost to Carolina in overtime, and we just didn't have a replacement at guard for Van Exel, and Nick ran out of gas in 93 a little bit, and and then as it happens, there's a lot of things that happen during the course of a game that when you go back and look at it, shouldn't have happened. But in 96, Keith Legree broke his foot, and we lose in the Elite Eight again. But we lost to Mississippi State that time, and they were on an incredible run with Dampier and Jones and that whole crew. They had a heck of a team, and then another very, very close game, and playing without our point guard and really our leader. Keith Legree was one heck of a leader. And then in 2000, in the first round of the Conference USA tournament, Kenyon Martin breaks his leg and setting a down screen. Just a down screen, which he's did, thousands of times before. And it's the thing, Fink, to me that's really eerie is lose Kenyon, who was the best player in the country. There's not any question. There's no doubt about that. He was the best player in the country. And the role that Day was on, going into the Final Four was incredible. And Kenyon goes down, I go out. Obviously Kenyon, like Deshaun, a very tough guy, and they just don't fall down to fall down. And I went out, and Kenyon's, like I think most people would. He's like, "Why, coach? Why? Why does this happen? Why?" And I didn't have an answer. I'm like, "Hey, big fella, we're going to do everything humanly possible, to get you the best care that we can possibly get you." And he said, "Coach, why?" And he said, "I wanted this so bad for you. I wanted to win the national championship so bad for you." And I mean, when he said that, man, I started tearing up, and I'm thinking, here's a guy who is the best player in the country, who's going to be the number one pick in the NBA draft, and breaks his leg, and it all may be gone, and he knows that.
Mm.
All that could be gone, and he's worried about me.
Mm.
And I think that tells you the character of Kenyon Martin.
Mm.
And when I went out today, you know, it was the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't about, Coach, what's going to happen to my NBA career? You know, Coach, can I recover from this and still play? And there was none of that.
Right.
It was, I wanted to win this so bad for the state of West Virginia.
Mm.
And, you know, I guess the good about that is that when you have two guys like that, no wonder our team was so good.
Mm.
Two guys who put everything else ahead of themselves, which is very, very rare.
Especially for guys who, as you said, are the best players in the country. The moment with Day, that you have never struck me as someone who cares what other people think of him, but I do think there is this perception of you. You know, people see you on TV and they see you getting on officials or whatever the case may be. And I remember, but that moment, I think the you know, kind of the intimacy, for lack of a better word, in that moment where you could see him crying and you just kind of got down and covered his face. I presume so the cameras couldn't see him, so he could have some privacy. Was that your goal there, to let him kind of experience that without all those cameras on him?
Well, really what it was they also had a mic there. And I didn't think that was anybody's business.
Yeah.
And then I was also trying to talk to him to where, you know, it was a conversation between him and I. It wasn't a conversation that everybody ought to hear.
Right.
But I mean, it's eerie though that could happen like that twice. And both times, you know, people could say, well, you know, you still had a great team and you could have came back and won in Memphis in the Conference USA tournament. We had no interest in playing. And really we had no interest in finishing the game in Minneapolis because it was so tough emotionally to deal with. And you know, it's when you watch somebody who has given what those two guys gave to the programs, and you watch them get carried off the floor, it's and that's it, in those kind of situations, you know, it's just it's hard to deal with, man.
And that, in many ways, as I was alluding to, I think that one of the things that immediately struck me about you, not just in what I observed personally, but what I saw and heard, whether it was Larry or Jay or anybody else who I've come to know, but everybody says you don't understand the relationship between Hugs and his players is just different, and people finally saw a glimpse of it when Butler went down like that. But it doesn't necessarily, you know, everybody knows that you're going to be held accountable at West Virginia and they're going to push you. And, but what they don't know is that, you know, Hugs is actually, and this is, I'm basically quoting Jay here. I said, you know, he's actually much more soft spoken than anybody would imagine. And they said and you know, the relationship between him and his players is just like, you know, nothing they've ever seen. And so that moment, to me, it was like, well, here's what everybody's always been telling me about, and now the rest of the country kind of gets to see it. There's not really a question in there, so I did want to articulate. But you you don't care what people think or say, do you? I mean, that just seems to be so obvious.
To a degree. I mean, no, I don't.
Yeah.
Larry and I have talked about this a lot. I mean, in some ways, those people who bash us about practicing too long, practicing too hard, whatever that they do, they help us because we get guys then who really do want to work, and they really do want to get better, and they really do love playing basketball.
Yeah,
that is some guys who play basketball for the wrong reasons.
Right.
And, so does it bother me? No. When it gets personal, generally I have a conversation with whoever got personal behind my back and get that straightened out.
And that's one that's probably best not mic'd up as well. Wanted to ask you talk about getting back on the floor, just kind of shift topics briefly. You guys recently had 5 players test positive for COVID-19. And first and foremost, I just wanted to check to see how they and everybody else in your program was doing.
They're doing great. They're doing great. We're, I think, a day or 2 away from them getting out of quarantine, and everybody's excited, ready to go. I just think I say things I shouldn't say. I say things that maybe sometimes are best left unsaid. But I think we make a terrible mistake when we disassociate coaches from their players, and that's happened during this COVID thing. The voluntary workouts, they're better off doing them not under our supervision where we're coaching them or anything like that, but in a venue. We know where they are, when they're there, who they're with, because they're going to play, Fink.
Right.
They're going to play, and I continue to tell people that we're not going to stop them from playing. We can't stop them from playing. I got a call yesterday. One of my buddies called and said, "Well, hey, I saw your point guard. He was out there on the playground getting shots up." They're going to do it. I would rather they be in a practice facility in a clean, sterile environment than it would be them out on the playground, or out playing 3-on-3 with some guys that who knows where they were the night before, or probably for that matter earlier in the day. It doesn't make any sense to me. And we talk about doing the best thing for the student athlete. The best thing for the student athlete is being around the coaches where we can kind of control the environment.
Right. So when you have 5, what's the protocol like when you talk about controlling the environment? When you have 5 guys test positive, does everybody get shut down? Everybody has to get tested? The environment that we see in Orlando is very public. We know how that's going, but I don't think people really understand how it's happening on a micro level at different, college basketball programs.
Well, we only had 4 left because we had guys that weren't here yet.
Gotcha.
So we only had 4 guys left. But even those 4 guys, why do you close them out of the athletic facilities? That makes no sense to me. And I haven't had anybody who's even come close to explaining to me how that makes sense. Because these other guys are in quarantine. The other 4 guys are going to go play somewhere. I mean, anybody who's been around basketball players knows that. They're going to find a place to get shots up. They're going to find a place to probably 2-on-2 game going. I would just assume it'd be in facilities that are sterile, and we can't be with our players, but we can sure dictate who comes in the building and who's not allowed in the building.
We're dealing with this in the with my kids getting ready to go back to school, and the thing they talk about is there he is, the aforementioned Coach Harrison. Can we get him to cuss me out just before he leaves, or just for old time's sake?
think he had to get a cameo in, you know?
He did. He's probably going, it's got to be hard for him to not be the healthiest guy on your staff. I know it's the workout routine is very important to his. I was talking to him yesterday. I said, we know you're going to work forever, so he's got to keep working out an hour a day. So it was really bad for my ego when I was 24 and he was out lifting me in the gym every day. But
I mean, genetics do play a part.
Yeah, no, I was not advantaged in that area, but so I was saying with regard to in terms of like bringing kids back to school, my kids, gonna have a third grader and a kindergarten, and they're talking about the advantages of small groups. It's better to know where the kids are, even when it comes to contact tracing and stuff like that, because then they'll be able to kind of trace where, who's at risk and things like that. So it's a point that's well taken, and that you're seeing more and more in different areas. So hopefully we hope to see those guys back on the floor soon, and glad to hear that everybody else is still healthy and safe. Coach, I wanted to dive back in. I said we were going to revisit this. You mentioned in the beginning growing up the son of a coach and having a prominent playing career of your own. And now correct me if I was wrong, but you were born in Morgantown, but then grew up for the most part in Ohio. Is that right?
I was born in Morgantown, lived here till I was somewhere between 9 and 10. Played Little League here. The only ninth grader in the city of Morgantown to play on the A team.
There you go.
Third baseman. But yeah, I loved it in Morgantown. Both of my grandparents were here until they passed. They actually got to see me play when I came back here, so that was a great deal. But my dad, like most people, you gotta try to better yourself, and you got an opportunity to get a better coaching opportunity in Ohio, and we grew up in Northeast Ohio from really that point on.
Now the story goes, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but that we know you were a hell of a player. That part is undeniable. But the story goes that people were expecting you, or you were supposed to go to Ohio State, but you ended up committing to Ohio U initially. How did I get that right, or how did that go down?
Well, I was recruited by both of those schools.
Okay.
Jim Snyder, to this day, one of the great people that I've ever had the pleasure of associating with, and he recruited me. And it's very rare that head coaches recruit you. He saw we were undefeated that season, and he was at every tournament game that I played. He wasn't at every regular season game. He was at a number of regular season games. But I thought if a head coach cared that much, I mean, that's where I want to be. Jim Snyder's the reason I chose Ohio University and didn't go to Ohio State or a lot of the other people that recruited me.
So, and then you eventually transferred to West Virginia. Was that after 1 year?
Yeah, about halfway through the season, I found out Coach Snyder was retiring.
Okay.
And he was the reason I went there.
Gotcha.
So then you kind of look at opportunities, and my grandfather, who I was very, very close to, my dad's father, was getting up in years, and I just thought it'd be great to be able to go to West Virginia and be able to play in front of family.
Yeah. As you talk about family, so I'm going to try and tie it all together here. So we just saw Coach Harrison come back in. I remember when he first hired me, and I'm trying to get prepared for the job, and everybody says, well, it's a mini Cincinatti. Said, you're going to Hartford. Everything they do is just what they did at Cincinnati. And I said, so I'm getting, now at the time you had, and this is kind of random, but you had had a number of different things out explaining your different systems on both ends of the ball, your offensive system, your defensive system. And I remember watching this tape, and it was, when you're 20 years old and you didn't play college basketball, you're trying to teach yourself how to coach. One of the things you do is you watch all the coaching videos back at a time when there was a little bit more transparent than maybe some of those resources are now. And I remember, I don't know if you remember filming this, but there was a tape on your open post offense that you broke down every single detail of it, and I believe even had clips from your Cincinatti teams on it. Do you recall this? I should have told you I was going to bring this up, but do you recall this tape at all?
Yeah, we had a booster who had just bought a company that did those kind of things.
Oh, okay.
And he said, "Would you be interested in making a couple tapes?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." So. And
you gave it all away, right? Because the reason I say that is because when I first got to Hartford practice, and here I am, this 24-year-old who never played with the as noted, the less than ideal basketball genetics, and getting ready and practice, and I know what I'm doing because I've studied that tape, and because you really, I mean, you gave a lot of it away in that tape. I remember just even the footwork of getting open. So those different things, I was able to kind of bridge that gap because of those resources that were out there.
Well, I think that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to do everything that we can do to make the game better. And, as I think alluded to, I've been blessed. I've been blessed to be around great coaches. I'm blessed to be around John McClendon. I was blessed to be around Ed McCluskey. I was blessed to be around Al McGuire, Gene Cady, Lou Carnesecca. I mean, go on and on and on. I mean, Jim Valvano. And I was blessed. And, think much like what you're talking about, we lost to Michigan, who was the number 1 ranked team in the country the whole year and had an unbelievable team. And we lost by 4, I believe it was, in the first round of the NCAA tournament. And that was the first time that a shoe company said, we'd like to have you as part of our staff. And with that, I got to do clinics. And so, I'm at the University of Akron. It's my first Division I coaching job. And I mean, Friday, man, I can't wait. I can't wait to go out, get on a plane, fly somewhere. I'm sitting in a room when all those guys come in, and I never leave. I just sit over in the corner and I take everything in, and I listen. And as you grow, you, I guess, become more accepted, or you become more of the family, so to speak. And then I was able to sit with Tark and talk to Tark about, what they do defensively, how they break things down. And I knew, because Tim Gergerich and I had known each other for quite a while. But just to be around those guys, was incredible to me, and be able to sit and listen to their lectures, listen to them. I think I learned more. Ed Janka had a room, that a big suite, and everybody would go in there and sit around and talk, and you'd listen. I just sit and listened. And so, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I think the majority of us do that in some form or fashion. But I'm just blessed, man. I blessed it. Al McGuire took me under his wing, and I don't know why. I mean, he saw something in me that he liked, and Tark was incredible to me. Charlie Spoonhour, I could never imagine ever having a better friend. And they helped me. They helped me become, I think, a whole lot better, certainly, than what I could have became myself.
You mentioned a lot of guys there, Hall of Famers, who don't need any explanation from me. But there's a couple names that are a little less prominent. Was it Jack McClendon and Ed McCluskey? I believe I've heard you refer to as the greatest high school coach that ever lived. Is that an accurate quote?
he's the best one I ever saw. As they used to say, he could. Well, how does it go? He could take his and beat yours, or he could take yours and beat his.
Mhm.
Just a great basketball coach. And if you look it up and you look at what he did, absolutely incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible. And he's a legend. He's a Western Pennsylvania legend. And he helped my dad start his camp. I met the guy. I wasn't very old. My dad worked the camp. My dad took me up to camp. I was the ball boy. I was the guy chased all the balls down.
Hmm.
Went over and made sure they were all accounted for and in the rack. And I did that for a couple years, and coach took a liking to me, and my dad started the camp, and coach came to that camp, and I was with him at every station all the time. And you just so I'm blessed. I mean, a lot of people don't have the opportunities that I had to be around greatness, and he's certainly one of the great coaches that's ever coached our game.
And did the open post offense that we were talking about, did that originate with him, or was that something? I'm sure it evolved over the years, but did that, because your dad used to run it as a coach, I was told. Is that true? But it started with Coach McCluskey. Is that accurate?
That my dad got the start of it from Ed McCluskey, and then he expanded on it, and then as you watch different things and you say, "Oh, that's really good. We could implement that in what we do." I mean, that's what we ran in the Elite Eight game against Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'll tell you an amazing thing that I've never heard of it happening before, but we led at halftime against Kentucky, who was unquestionably the best team in the country.
Mm-hmm.
It was 6 or 7 first round picks. It was at least 6. It might have been 7. And we did not make a 2-point field goal the whole first half and led at halftime.
Was that so? It's just free throws and threes?
Free throws and threes.
Wow.
Had to spread them out.
And you did that with the open post.
Mm-hmm.
I used to say to this, I'm having flashbacks here. I used to say to Coach Harrison, I was like, "Why are we curling everything? They know we're gonna curl." Like that's. I said, "Could we fade something?" And I'm sure there's different variations and reads that come later in the part. But I knew we were curling everything because it was on the tape. What I didn't know is that it all, is it the evolution of it, that it started at a Western PA high school, and then it was your dad's, and then it became yours, and then it started to splinter off into the different members of your coaching family.
Well, I think as you continue to run things, people make adjustments,
Mm,
and so we couldn't curl everything. So we rejected
sure.
screens. We slip screens,
Right.
and so there's 3 things that can happen. You can curl it, you can slip it, you can reject it. And later on, we did fade it a little bit, but we faded it more for guys like Deshaun, who
Sure.
understood how to do it, and had a incredible knack of being able to get his feet down.
Right. So to bring this all full circle, so when you come back to West Virginia and take over the program, and I remember I've heard you say personally, not just in conversation, it was an opportunity to come home. But I've also been told that it was an opportunity for you to reconnect with a lot of old friends that maybe you grew up with or friend. But what has that process been like for the last decade plus now?
Well, I think first of all, I need to say I loved Kansas State.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas State and West Virginia have so many similarities. I had an unbelievable president at Kansas State. I had a great athletic director. I got to rub shoulders with Bill Snyder, who may be one of the top 2 or 3 college football coaches that's ever coached college football. I enjoyed it, and it was hard to leave there. But the idea of being able to come home and try to get this program on a national level year in and year out, and get back to an area that I know really, really well, a recruiting situation where I could recruit Ohio, which I spent so much time in. So it was, and my buddies. I mean, I had guys from West Virginia came to Cincinnati on a regular basis. They came to Kansas State. Not near as regular, but a lot for being that far away, and just to be able to get back here, be closer to family, be closer to my friends that I grew up and spent a lot of time with.
When people externally evaluate a job, Cincinnati, Kansas State, West Virginia, there's a bunch of different factors that they cite, facilities always being one of them. You guys have a new beautiful facility. I haven't seen it in person, but only in video and pictures. But a lot of that is directly attributed to your ability to go raise money for your athletic department and your university. How is that? I just, you talk about, so I guess what I'm getting at is you see, I remember when you first came back to West Virginia, and I said, that's some programs have a brand. Kentucky is a brand. Kentucky basketball is a brand. I remember when you first went back to West Virginia, I said, Bob Huggins is a bigger brand than West Virginia basketball is right now, but they've become synonymous in the last, as I said, decade plus. So, but to be able to go out and to make the kind of contributions beyond just win-loss record that you did to get this facility built, and the amount of money that you personally got raised to that end, is a story that I've never heard of being duplicated at any other program in the country.
Well, Cincinnati was a brand. Cincinnati, the uniforms.
I had the shorts in middle school. I bought them in the mall. That's true. Yeah.
I mean, Cincinnati basketball was a brand. It was the Jordan school.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that was a brand. I went to Kansas State, and Nike made his Nike Elite the week I got there.
Mm-hmm.
And we sold a lot of gear at Kansas State in the year that I was there. And Nike has a lot to do, I think, with when you talk about branding and you talk about image. Nike certainly has a lot to do with it, and I would hope that I've been very good for Nike, and I know for a fact Nike's been very good for me. So you don't do anything by yourself. I had an advantage coming back here because I knew everybody. I didn't know everybody, but I knew quite a few people, and the athletic director I knew from when I was a player. Eddie Paslon and I got along great when I was a player, and I went in and I said, Eddie, we got to get a practice facility. I mean, this hasn't changed since I was here. You got phys ed in the morning, then you got women's volleyball, you got women's basketball, you got us, and then you got, when I was here, it was the recreation building as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it was hard to get shots up, man. And I think when I sat down and talked to our guys, what don't you like about here? And they're like, Coach, we can't get in the Coliseum and get shots up. So I went to Eddie and I said, we got to get a practice facility. He said, Bobby, I agree. I 100% agree. He said, I can show you where I want to build it. And he walked me out of the building, and we walked over. There were tennis courts here at the time. He said, "We're going to build them right here, right here. We're going to build it right here where these tennis courts." And I said, "Well, Ed, when are we going to get started?" He said, "As soon as you raise the money." So I did.
That is not the normal conversation between head coach and athletic director.
Well, remember what I said. I've known Eddie for a long, long time. So
yeah.
The response didn't surprise me at all.
Okay.
But people think they were fantastic. We raised $26 million. People were fantastic. And honestly, I have a very, very dear friend that is in charge of a trust. Got it kicked off and got it started. But I mean, people were so receptive to the idea. And my thing was, we need to show people what the people of West Virginia are like. We need to show the country that we can be a nationally known program. And we're going to build the best practice facility in America. And we did. And I think it still is. There's not many. In fact, I don't think there's any. I don't think that there's any practice facilities that have a locker room for their former players. I'm in my office. I look down. Kevin Jones is leaning against the wall, taking his jeans off, and putting his shorts on to go out and get a workout in. And I'm like, this isn't right. So I go downstairs. I'm like, KJ, listen, man, you go in the locker room and change. You don't have to do that out there. He goes, no, coach. I had my 4 years there. It was our locker room when I was there. It's their locker room now. I'm not gonna invade on their space. And so I came back up to the office. I'm like, we got to fix this. So we built them a locker room. So our former players now all have their own lockers. They can come in day or night. They have the same swipe card our players have. They can come in, get shots up at 11 o'clock at night. They can come in at 5 o'clock in the morning. Whatever they choose. Come in here and get shots up. Be able to go in and take a shower. And then I get, hey man, we need a sauna and a jacuzzi. And I'm like, do we really need it? Do we want it or do we need it? Well, it'd be really good. That's okay. So we put those in a locker room. We've got a cryo chamber. I mean, there isn't anything that anybody in this country has that we don't have in this building. And that's important to me. It's important because what I told the people in the state of West Virginia and the alumni and the people who helped us, we will have the best, and I will do the best I can possibly do to make sure that it remains the best practice facility in the country. And we'll have, what I told people was, here's what we want. We want when somebody goes in and says, I want to build a practice facility, everybody says you need to go to West Virginia and look at that, man, because that's the best.
Well, from all I've seen and heard, that's certainly been accomplished. Last question I have for you, I want to ask you about two words. I asked in my due diligence here, I asked everybody, what word, I do this, what one word would you associate with coach? And the word that kept coming up was loyalty. And I know this is a little cliche, but everybody says he takes care of his people. And that was brought up and the connection was made to me with regard to the facility. And they said, and that's why when people had a chance to help him and contribute to what we were doing here, they were so eager to do it. But that doesn't happen without his loyalty to all those people coming first. So I know you're not one to toot your own horn, but I just, in a day and age, and certainly in a college basketball where loyalty isn't always the norm anymore, I just wanted to ask you your philosophy, for lack of a better word, on that word.
Well, I think you treat people the way you would like to be treated. And, and as I said, I'm the most blessed guy in the world when it comes to coaching because I was around the greatest minds, the greatest coaches, and being a great coach, you don't always have to be a great basketball coach. You can do it with relationships. There's a lot of guys that don't coach real well, but they have great relationships. They can get guys to do things that ordinarily those guys wouldn't be able to do. And that's part of coaching. And I've been blessed. And so, for me to be blessed the way I've been blessed, my dad was a high school coach, man. We had 7 kids, lived in a trailer. It's like my brother said. I've got 2 brothers. One played at Rice, one played at Ohio State. And we were sitting around talking one day, and people were like, "Well, yeah, you guys had a mate." Said, "Yeah, come and live in that trailer." I sleep on my right side to this day. Can't sleep on my left side. My brother, the brother next to me, sleeps on his left side. Can't sleep on his right side because we slept back to back in a bunk on the bottom bunk of the bunk bed in a trailer. And as my brother said, the toughest thing was you don't want to be the 7th kid to have to get in the tub because there was only one pour of water,
Yeah.
So I've been blessed, man. I've been blessed to have a great family. I've been blessed to have 4 sisters and 2 brothers that are great people that are all successful in their own right. And it's why wouldn't you share? Why wouldn't you try to help other people enjoy their life, be the best that they can possibly be? I mean, Fink, I'm telling you, Al McGuire got me hooked up with 7-Up. I to go do some speaking things and do something, and yeah, I look at this 7-Up shoot. I've been blessed, man. So I think if it's like the old adage, I think I don't know exactly how it goes, but it's something that you receive so much more than you give. Basically, is what it is, and I've received a lot, so I need to give a lot.
Well, Coach, I think that is a great place to leave it. I'm going to reserve the right to ask you about the Naked and Afraid Discovery show the next time I see you. I've heard you're a big fan. And among the questions that I'm avoiding submitted by your staff is ask you about the Naked and Afraid television show, the size of the biggest fish you've ever caught, and your favorite mob movie. So we're going to have to leave those for another time because there's a reason you're the head coach, and I think you left it in just the right place there.
Well, I'll tell you this, Frank. I got to tell you this: that the Naked and Afraid thing with the bugs, I couldn't do it.
No,
I mean, I can't do mosquitoes. I grew up, my dad his camp was outdoors, and there were mosquitoes everywhere, and I can't. I have this. I don't know what it is, phobia for bugs. I can't do it. So when them bugs get to biting and all that, I lose interest. But, when they're building shelters and you learn things. I mean, you just don't go to, you get lost out in the woods, Fink, and you get just unbelievably thirsty. But you just can't go over and get a drink of water. You have to boil it first. I didn't know that. I mean, I drank water out of the creek.
Me neither.
I didn't die, but maybe I could have. I don't know. But you learn it. You learn things. Naked and Afraid teaches you a lot, and you talk about people persevering and surviving. I mean, who wants to tap out?
Yeah, that is.
Make me tap out. I
admittedly hadn't heard of the show before yesterday, but now I'm gonna be compelled to try and check it out. All right, last one. I lied. Favorite mob? Is it just mob movies or is it mob shows? Did Sopranos make the cut? That's really all I'm asking.
I really enjoyed The Sopranos, but I really enjoy watching shows of the real things that happen. You know,
Mm,
you know Gotti and Capone, and that how my mom's father's Italian, came over on the boat. Um, I went to Ellis Island and I looked for his name and I called him and I'm like, Grandpa Bob, your name's not out here at Ellis Island. He said you had to buy a ticket to get your name on. He said,
really?
I smuggled my way on the boat, and it's amazing. And I always, he was an amazing guy, and but then the whole Italian, the mob thing, it's fascinating. I don't read as much now. I get older, so I read and I go to sleep now. But
I'm not allowed to ask you about books. I haven't asked you about books.
I know,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying. I mean, I've read a lot about the mob, and then you get to watch it on TV. It's fascinating.
It is, especially to the extent that it still exists abroad. It certainly is. So
It still exists here too.
yeah, well, that's true too. Yeah. Coach, you have been extremely generous with your time as always. I was thrilled that you agreed to do this. Thank you so much, and for all your time and your generosity.
Well, you're the first one of these things, or Zoom things, or whatever, that you haven't mentioned my beard, and
well, I tried to grow mine just for the I combed the hair out and grew the beard, wore the shirt. I was trying to be
yeah. I was going to say probably you didn't mention because you're jealous.
Yeah, no, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. But it looks good with the bandana too. Is a good look. So yeah, I wasn't.
This is my mask.
Oh, I see. Okay.
See?
Yeah, I did see that. I did see that ad you just did to promote the use of the mask.
Listen, I'm telling you, I sell more things than Betty Crocker.
Coach, you're one of a kind. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it as always.
Appreciate it, Frank. Have a great day.